Good Friday afternoon to you. It is 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Hope your weekend is off to a great start. Thanks for joining us. Plenty of Browns to talk about a little later in the show. Brad Ward from brownswire.com, the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast, will join us. We'll talk some football, and that's where we begin, talking football. The Deshaun Watson case. Josina Anderson tweeting from a statement that she was given from Tony Busby with some interesting stuff. It's been reported that 12 alleged victims spoke to the NFL. I've confirmed that 10 of those women were his clients. None of his clients have a son questioned by the NFL. That came out yesterday. And as I've said, there were several women called my office wanting to sue Watson that I decided, based on my trial experience, not to represent. No, at least one of those women who I declined to represent spoke to the NFL and gave a statement to police. It's all I know on that front. Again, this is Tony Busby, the lawyer of the 20 plaintiffs against Deshaun Watson, recently reported that none of the 5 cases presented to the NFL involved violence, coercion, or force. I'm not sure how that's a surprise. Only 2 of the civil cases, so 2 of the 24, our team filed, alleged that type of conduct. Those women who made those allegations already resolved their cases with Watson. Neither spoke to the NFL. Majority of the civil cases we filed alleged indecent exposure and assault, that is, touching without consent, and they aren't privy to what was presented to the NFL, but he expects they will know soon. In any event, as he said several times, what the NFL does or doesn't do has no bearing at all on the civil cases that remain against Deshaun Watson or the cases that we, being Tony Busby's team, are preparing and may file against the Houston Texans. So that's kind of interesting. There may be more cases coming against the Houston Texans, according to Tony Busby, the lawyer for the claimants in those civil cases. All right, Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk, NBC Sports, on the obstacles the league and the Players Association might be facing if they try to come to an agreed upon settlement.
Fundamental challenge for the NFL. It cannot afford to be perceived as being lenient in any way on Deshaun Watson. And when the league is repeatedly making it known that it's seeking a minimum suspension of 1 year for Deshaun Watson, how do you back off on that without appearing weak, without appearing ineffective, without appearing too lenient with someone who the league believes did enough to justify a full year suspension? Why are you giving up now? Why are you folding tents and accepting a 6 or an 8 game suspension? That, to me, is difficult to accomplish until Judge Robinson issues a decision, because her decision, in a certain way, sanitizes the league's position on this, because she's the one, true outsider, who comes to the conclusion as to what happened here. That's why I've said time and again, it's critical that whatever she puts on paper makes sense, is understandable, no jargon, legalese, mumbo jumbo, something that is simple, that people will say, okay, I get it. I may not agree with her outcome, but I understand how she got from the entry to the maze to the exit of the maze.
Again, Mike Florio does have a law degree, practiced law before he got into the media, so a bit of an understanding there with the process. All right, Florio, again, on how the disciplinary hearing could very well play out after a decision is rendered.
There are 2 sides with a huge gap in the middle, and it's very difficult to find middle ground. There are the people who say he shouldn't be suspended at all, he didn't do anything, there's no proof. And then there's people who say suspend him for life, or at least a full season. So the NFL has to make its decisions in light of the fact that you've got these 2 polar extremes. And I think waiting for Judge Robinson to make her decision makes it easier for the NFL to then try to settle it. But remember, the NFL's got the hammer at that point. As long as she imposes any discipline on him whatsoever, the NFL has the hammer. The commissioner on appeal can enhance it to whatever he wants. He's only limited by her factual findings. He would have to take her factual findings and say, okay, I accept these. I have no choice but to accept them. But I think under these facts, the way the personal conduct policy applies to these facts, the punishment should be much more than what someone who was a federal judge for 25 years had concluded. But he still has the power to do it, and in theory, there's nothing the union can do after that under the CBA. I know they can go to court, but again, judges don't like to get involved when private parties have put together a comprehensive system for resolving their differences.
And with that, let's welcome in G. Bush. He is the host of The Barbershop, 8 until noon, 92.3 The Fan. Also, co-host of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. You can see that Monday through Friday, 11 until 1. So, G. Bush, a lot to talk about there. The more you hear about the things that are coming out with some of the claimants, the more it doesn't make any sense. It's kind of all over the place.
Yeah, see, this to me, the league has a problem right here because Buzzy Beebe is a very smart attorney. And I've been saying it for a very long time. I've done videos on this, 3 different parts of the series. When I read the initial documentation filed by Harden, who is Deshaun Watson's attorney, I looked at it from a standpoint of saying, well, they're claiming there's 8 or 9 different things wrong with these allegations, right? You got people saying that they're willing to testify under oath that, hey, this person said, hey, I really wasn't, Deshaun Watson didn't do anything, but I mean, now he's under investigation, and if he would offer me a little more money, I would have probably told him the exact opposite of what's going on. Right now, you're starting to see that Busby was a very good lawyer in playing this out and leaking things and not being specific, right? When you're not specific and you just throw out sexual assault allegations, the way the human mind works is you go right to what's the most pressing. You're thinking, oh my gosh, this is a rape case, 20 some odd cases of this, or like he's doing. But when you break it down, the thing that jumps out of people is, well, I don't know why they're surprised. There was no coercion, there was no force. We only had 2 cases in which we even argued. 2 of our clients out of the 24 argued that there was anything forced, coerced, or violent, or anything like that. There was none of that happened. Now you get information about different individuals with somebody with a recording with a son saying, yeah, my mom told me to be quiet about it. She was going to pay for my silence. And she was fine. She told completely different story than when Deshaun Watson wasn't going through allegations. But when the allegations came, she changed her tune. The league has that's a tough problem, because now this is 2 weeks in a row where we hear things and we're like, now people are saying, well, hold on, wait a minute. Well, the grand jury, they declined to bring any charges, 2 of them. Now you're telling me last week there was no coercion or force or nothing? You had 12 cases the NFL had, 12, right? They only used 5 of the women's testimonies, and some of them, they never met with them personally. So now you get to the point where you're saying to yourself, coupled on top of that with the fact that, yes, Mike Florio is correct. Judges won't get into something that's collectively bargained, right? They say you guys had already came up with the way that things work. If the letter of the law is the letter of the law, we're going to have to go with that. But they got one problem. They actually have 3. You've had 3 people that are owners that specifically state they are held to a higher standard that got nothing, 0. And they had to admit that to the judge, that not only did they violate the policy, but they got no punishment. So you take all that included in all of this stuff, and it looks as if a lot of people are coming to the conclusion of, well, what are you suspending him for? But I'm just trying to figure it out, because the league hasn't spelled it out. Nobody else has spelled it out. I'm trying to figure out what the punishment and what is the suspension for a year. And by the way, unprecedented punishment for.
Yeah, and the flip side of it is they interviewed 12. You heard 24. The NFL talked to 12. They only brought 5. It just keeps decreasing in numbers as well. So again, Sue L. Robinson gets the briefs Monday. She probably will take a week, maybe even a little bit longer, because she doesn't want to look like you're rushing through it. And then we'll get her decision, and then it will go from there. G. Bush and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Another thing to talk about, some Baker Mayfield talk. Straight ahead with G. Bush and I, Sports4CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with G. Bush, host of the Barbershop 92.3 The Fan Saturdays from 8 until noon. Let's take a look. This is from The Athletic, a very interesting article about the Browns and Baker Mayfield and Kevin Stefanski. By the time it was over, lack of trust on both sides. Mayfield was annoyed that Stefanski missed a meeting the day after the Browns were beaten soundly by the Patriots, and thought the play caller should attend every session. Stefanski missed that meeting because he was instead with Myles Garrett, according to a source, after Garrett lashed out at the media post-game over coaching staff's lack of adjustments against the Patriots. And one of those careful what you wish for moments, Stefanski never missed another meeting and privately put a little bit of a spotlight on his quarterback during film sessions from that day forward. G. Bush, it kind of shows you how everything kind of unraveled during the season last year. Really good reporting from The Athletic there as well.
Yeah, listen, I'm gonna keep it real with you. This shines a light on what a lot of people inside the industry were talking about. Now, here's the thing. I get the fact that Baker Mayfield is a guy that wants to look the part. I know he wants to act the part, but like this is just an example of, look, man, we didn't all had this happen before. I used to work in corporate America. I had like 5 bosses, right? Sometimes we have a one-on-one connection, and those one-on-one connections with me were supposed to be scheduled for certain days, right? But given the fact that they were my boss, they report to somebody else. So guess what? They might have had to say, hey, look, Garrett, I got to meet with my boss. So in terms of that, we're going to have to push this meeting and be flexible and move to something else. And you just get it. It is what it is. Because sometimes when I'm doing with my team, I have 40 people on my team. I sometimes need to go ahead and push things that way. Like, hey, I got to do this. It's 3 fires out over here. I got to multitask. But the fact that Baker was somehow calling Stefanski on the carpet about missing a meeting and we need to be all in. Well, he's lucky that Stefanski didn't show up after that meeting, because to be honest with you, you look at that game, Baker Mayfield threw for 70-something odd yards. 70. Like, they got boat raced. They got beat 43 to, like, I don't even really think that they stopped them the whole day. You look at, he threw for 70-something odd yards. He threw 2 interceptions. And Coach Kevin Stefanski was like, okay, I see what we're doing here. You trying to call me out like I ain't ready to go, like I don't got my notes in order, like you don't got nothing on this list to work on. Oh, okay, well, listen, I guarantee I won't miss another one. As a matter of fact, I need to see you at 6 a.m. so we can go over this film work. And that's the type of stuff that listen, sometimes I just want to fly under the radar. I don't want to be under I don't want the executive producer or the program director just calling me every week. Nah, bro, I want to fly under the radar. And Baker should have been worried about where was that type of energy when Odell Beckham and him needed to be on the same page. He could have had that same energy. Like, come on, OBJ. Come on here after practice, before practice. We're going to watch film. We'll go in there with Kevin Stefanski, and all three of us get here and diagram some plays. But you can't do that with the coach and think you're just going to, like, skate out. It just doesn't work that way, man.
No, absolutely not. All right, we're going to head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason for the first time today. This one about Baker Mayfield in Week 1.
How you guys doing? It's ET calling back again. Now that Baker is traded, how much longer are we going to keep talking about Baker now that he's out the building? I know everybody hyped up for a possible Week 1 matchup against him, but he coming in the training camp all late with Sam Darnold having a year-plus head start on him. So do we even know if he's going to play against the Browns Week 1? And even if, hypothetically, Baker is playing Week 1, do people really think he's going to throw for 304 tubs on us? Are we really sure that Myles Garrett and Jadeveon ain't sitting back there looking like, oh, this offensive line week, we about to go get 4 sacks apiece? You got Newsome and Greedy and Denzel back there ready to get 4 interceptions apiece. I mean, come on, let's be honest. Like, even if people think Baker is a top 20, top 15 quarterback, Carolina, the Panthers team as a whole is garbage compared to ours. Like, let's be honest. Like, I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. I don't think people realize, like, this could easily be a 49-0 matchup. Like, I don't think people really know that, like, even with Jacoby. So what do y'all think? Like, can we end the Baker era? It's gone. It's over with. Let's move on. And if Baker is the starter Week 1, do you guys really think, even with the chip on the shoulder, do you guys really think he finna just go crazy on us? Let me know what y'all think. Thank you. Have a nice day.
All right, as always, appreciate all the voicemails. Garrett, I said this yesterday. He could throw for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, or he could throw a couple of picks, including a pick 6 to lose the game. That's the highs were really high with Baker and the lows were really low, and you never know which one you're getting.
Hey, listen, if any Browns players out there watching, I just want to throw this out to y'all. Hey, this is a must win. This is a must win. Don't play. Look, we're not playing around, man. You know, that comment is great for the fans. He says, when are we going to talk about Baker? Well, listen, if you've listened through the offseason, Baker Mayfield is a top 5 player when it comes to publicity and notoriety and moving the needle. He is now almost the new version of Tim Tebow, but he could play. He's much better than Tim Tebow. But what I mean is, when you take a look at Baker Mayfield, when you mention Baker Mayfield in any titles, your views go up. When you mention Baker Mayfield on the big shows, Fox, ESPN, guess what? The numbers go up. He's a lightning rod. You're gonna have to deal with Baker Mayfield forever. He's a name, right? Until he decides to flame out somewhere or whatever, he's a lightning rod. He's a person that moves the numbers, moves the needles. So guess what? You're going to hear about him an awful lot, and Carolina Panthers will be on TV more. With that being said, you ask, well, this could be 49-0. No. We're not going to do that. We're not going to give the 49-0 because I'm going to just give y'all an example. There was once upon a time Baker Mayfield went into the horseshoe. He had Mark Andrews. That's it. A tight end and a couple of fullbacks. And Ohio State had one of the best defensive lines ever. They had all kind of first-round picks, and all Baker Mayfield did is spread the ball around. Oh, they can't get to him. Spread the ball. Listen, we just seen Baker play well. We just seen him throw for 4 or 5 touchdowns against Joe Burrow. We've seen him put on the clinic sometimes. At the end of the day, the Cleveland Browns cannot come out here thinking it's 49 anything, and ain't nobody going to get 4 picks. They better come out here, be ready to play, because I'm telling you what, this is a must-win. And all these people around here talking about, well, I'm going to root for Baker. Listen, no. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. I like Odell Beckham Jr. I thought he could have did something here. But as soon as he went to the Rams, I said, good riddance, bro. Hey, I wish you the best of luck, but not when you play in my squad. I'm not clapping it up for Baker. We're not waving no towels for Baker. We're not congratulating him in our heart of hearts after he scores any touchdowns. And I don't want to see no celebrations with him and Hollywood Higgins. This needs to toe the line. Myles Garrett, I need you to show up in a big way. Jadeveon Clowney, JOK, it's all on the table. Hey, Hey, if you got to get a little rough with him, if you got to get in his head, that's what you need to do, because this is a must win. I will refuse to come back on here and talk to you about a loss to Baker Mayfield and Carolina. No, can't do it. I can't do it.
Yeah, and keep in mind, the Browns have not been good in openers since their return in 1999. This one's kind of interesting as well. So this is from VegasInsider.com. Comeback Player of the Year odds already out there. And take a look, fourth on that list at plus 800, Baker Mayfield. That gives you an idea. They think he's winning the starting job. I'm not sure what Derrick Henry's coming back for. He played in the playoff game that they had, so he's the favorite at plus 300. Winston plus 500, and then you go down there about the 10th spot. You got Deshaun Watson at plus 1600. My guess is they don't think Watson's going to play a significant amount of games to be able to bring that comeback player of the year thing in. But that gives you an idea. Vegas, that all those big buildings aren't made because they're wrong. So Baker Mayfield plus 800 to be comeback player of the year.
Listen, if he wins, I'll say this. He wins week 1, you might as well, and he starts the rest of the year, and he goes 500. All they got to do is 500. Let's not act like the NFC has got some sort of gauntlet there. I mean, he's playing in the division with Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota, who are also guys on that list, which means all three of you guys have played bad at one point in time to be a comeback player of the year, or something catastrophic is happening. I don't think you guys are in a situation Deshaun Watson is, but you play bad, you're at another team, you get another fresh start. Baker Mayfield, I'm telling you right now, if he plays well throughout the season, they might as well write his name on the trophy, because I've already said it. I analyzed it myself. I was here looking around. I said, I've never seen a player get this much attention. It's different. Like, it's a different level. It's not just Cleveland, man. Like, when the Browns moved on from Baker, every single major outlet was like, can Baker come back? Is Baker going to step up? Is Baker, the Browns should go apologize to Baker. Baker, the best option is to be back in Cleveland. If Deshaun Watson has done a year, they already got his name on the trophy, to be truthful. It's up for him to mess it up. And I'll say this, and Deshaun Watson is down there at 1,600, plus 1,600. I'm going to say you this. And everybody get used to it. Given the fact of what happened here, I feel Deshaun Watson I don't care how well he plays, I don't think they'll ever let him be in contention for an MVP, any of that. They'll find a reason not to give it to him. The way that the backlash happens, and I know people can all, come back from certain things, but the way the media painted it and the vitriol and just the way they presented the whole case, I'm telling you, if you vote for any of those awards, I'm telling you right now, Deshaun Watson could throw for 5,000 yards, run for another 1,000, and throw for 50 touchdowns, and they'd be like, no, I just can't bring myself to do it. And so I'm just letting you know that ain't happening right now. So get used to it.
Yeah, that's probably fair and accurate. Bush and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Also take a look at the odds for teams to win the AFC. Sports4CLE, talking Browns. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with G. Bush, host of the Barbershop, Saturdays from 8 to noon, 92.3 The Fan. Also catch him on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, Monday through Friday, 11 until 1 o'clock here on YouTube. All right, let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about Baker Mayfield as well as Deshaun Watson.
Good to see our Browns got rid of Baker. I wish him all the well. I'm from Vegas. I call in a lot. I just want the Cleveland fans to know, if you want to know how great the difference between Baker and Deshaun is, look at the line for the Browns to win the AFC now. And when the suspension comes down, watch how the line moves across the league, if it's 4 games or less. Thank you. Go Browns.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. All right, so let's take a look. This is from DraftKings.com. Odds to win the AFC. Bills are currently the favorite, plus 300. Chiefs, plus 600. Chargers, plus 750. Broncos, Ravens, Bengals, Colts, and then the Browns are currently 8th. And that's, again, to win the AFC, plus 1,400. G. Bush, again, that's it's a pretty savvy thing to do because, again, folks in Vegas, the chandeliers and the big buildings are built because they're usually right.
Yeah, there's a couple people on there that's immediately about to get tracked down. the Indianapolis Colts, as soon as that suspension come down, I need y'all to move down a couple rungs on the list because you ain't got nothing for us. The Broncos are even up. That Broncos, listen, I know you got Russell Wilson. I like you. I like your running game. I like you got a couple Jerry Jeudy. I like your receivers. Listen, watch this, and this is fascinating. Watch the people and watch that narrative switch up. I love watching the national media have knee-jerk reactions because what happens is they, hey, it's July. We need some content. You know how it is. Let me throw up a couple little target words and get a couple clicks over here. But when that season come around and you know what the suspension is, and you take a look at the Browns roster, I'm ready for a lot of people to start moonwalking faster than Michael Jackson. Yeah. The Browns got a quarterback. They got a receiver. They got, and the thing is, they don't even talk about Amari Cooper, right? He was in Dallas. Oh yeah, Amari Cooper is one of the best. Was solid. They don't even talk about him here. We keep talking about our running back situations. They're like we still don't have a stable of backs, and our defense is what it is. And I think they're going to have a great year. I just think that once you know whether it's 4, whether it's 6 or 8, and I'll tell you like this. A lot of Browns fans is thinking of the situation like this. We're not really, if they give them 8, I still think that's too many games. But at the end of the day, I mean, Jacoby Brissett can give you a 4-4. If he can hold it down and go 4-4, hey, forget 4-4. He go 5-3, I'll slow clap it up. Because now we ready to go at 5-3. We can do it. We got a whole lot of season in front of us. So, yeah, that's what it looked like now. But I'm waiting to see when Sue Robinson comes out and talks a little bit. I think the numbers will change up.
Yeah, I would agree. And it'll be interesting to see what they do. And the national media seems to be a little bit behind just everything that's happening locally. All right. Predicting each and every AFC team's non-quarterback MVP. This is from NFL.com. The Browns, not a surprise at all. They go with Nick Chubb. Bruising back who cuts through the second level like a hot knife through butter, has averaged 5.3 yards per carry in his career. Currently second all-time behind the underrated Jamal Charles, 5.4. And the thing about that is Jamal Charles was a guy that had a bunch of 90-yard runs because of his speed. Nick Chubb will get some of those, but he gets a lot of 6-yard runs.
I'm excited because I get an opportunity to see without Deshaun Watson. I get to see how creative Kevin Stefanski is with these running backs. And I know, he keeps telling us, well, we like to keep those guys fresh, and we don't want to put them in at the same time. And listen, Coach Stefanski, I'm gonna let you know something right now. If you want to look at the onus, right? When Deshaun Watson is not here, this is the perfect opportunity for fans in the front office to assess how you go about implementing your offense, right? You got a guy that can complete some passes. The thing about Jacoby Brissett, he doesn't turn the football over. You got a guy. I want to see how creative you can get with the running game. I think that if you look at the creativity in terms of the way the league runs, I like the way Kyle Shanahan runs his offense. He has pretty much some of the same pieces and parts. And it's so crazy because I think the San Francisco 49ers are almost the NFC version of the Cleveland Browns. They're mirrored kind of the same way. They like to be physical. They run a running football. But I like the way Kyle Shanahan does it. He does it in a different way. He comes at it different levels. He'll have some split zone stuff. He'll have some stretch. He can run it out of the shotgun. He gets creative with Deebo Samuel back there, and he gets him the football, and he runs the ball as well as catches the football. I think that Kevin Stefanski needs to showcase, and he has an opportunity to do that. He has an opportunity to kind of silence some of the critics like myself and other people and say, look, this is why I was coach of the year. This is why I do what I do. I won some hardware once upon a time. I know a little thing called offensive football. You got a great offensive line coach. You got a great offensive line. I think it's time for you to. His goal should be saying, they should tell me, hey, Stefanski, stop beating us up front. Throw the ball once in a while. Throw it once in a while. Give us a little something, that little couple downs off. That's how he should be featured in the run game.
Yeah, and they got some offensive linemen that can maul opponents as well. You know, Wyatt Teller, I think Jedrick Wills, if he's healthy, can as well. All right, this is kind of interesting. CBS Sports came up with every NFL team's most likely future Hall of Famer. And for the Browns, they came away with Myles Garrett. They also asked, is he a lock? And currently they say no. I think that's probably fair. You know, Myles is relatively early in his career, back-to-back All-Pro seasons. You see, he's closing in on a sack per game played, 11 forced fumbles, 59 tackles for loss. He's only 26 years old, so he's not a lock yet because he hasn't done it enough. The other thing is you get a couple of those Defensive Player of the Year category things under your belt, that makes you a lock. So he's still ascending, which, think about that for a minute.
Yeah, it's kind of scary. Hey, Myles, I need you to stop dunking the basketball with your socks on, man. Listen, put some shoes on. I don't need no injury, no stub toes, no Liz Frank injuries, no high ankle sprains. I need you to hang out and don't be jumping around. It just goes to show you. Who dunks basketballs and they only got socks on? Are you crazy? You know how crazy that is? I'll say this about Myles Garrett, man. He now, to me, is the de facto leader of the team, right? If you looked at it before, people would say Baker Mayfield is the leader of the team. Myles Garrett is the de facto leader of the team. He's been more vocal, and this is just not offensively. This is the whole team. Deshaun Watson is still getting acclimated. Deshaun Watson is going to be suspended some games. He's not even going to be on the field. We don't even know when he's going to get back on the field. This is an opportunity, and I hope people be listening to this. This is an opportunity to make a career statement, right? Sometimes you good, and then you're great, and then you go off the charts. You got an opportunity where your quarterback is not playing. You got an opportunity to say, listen, guys, they keep talking about we going Deshaun Watson. You get with Jadeveon Clowney and these defensive guys, say, listen, we're going to dominate this first 8 games of the season. That's on us. Hey, if the offense can't score, so what? We need to take the ball away and score. If the offense can't throw the ball, you know what we need to do? We need to take the ball away from the other quarterback. We playing against that team. And if Myles Garrett can have that level of production of saying, not only am I going to disrupt you in the pass plays, I'm going to wreck your game in the run game too. I'm just going to be in the backfield. You can't block me. You can't double team me. I'm here every single play. And if he can do that and start getting those tackles for losses up around 25, if he can start being dominant on every single play. Now, don't get it twisted. He's still great. But he can have an impact. And in 8 games, you can ask somebody, is Myles Garrett a Hall of Famer? And he can play so well, they'll say, yeah, he's Hall of Famer now. The way he's played without a quarterback, way he's played with the Browns, and they're a little shorthanded right now, but he's taking the ball away. He's you know, they're stopping the run, they're stopping the pass, they're getting off the field on 3rd down. That's the type of player Myles Garrett is. and he has it in him. So I'm waiting to see it because I'm looking squarely on Joe Woods and the defense first 8 games, and whatever we get on offense, that's a cherry on top of the sundae.
G. Bush and I are going to step aside, take one more timeout. We'll stay on the defensive side of the ball, talking Browns when we return. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with G. Bush from the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, as well as 92.3 The Fans, The Barber Shop. We stay on the defensive side of the ball. This is from ESPN. Executive coaches and players rank the NFL's top 10 cornerbacks this time. Number 1 is Jalen Ramsey. Number 2, Marshawn Lattimore from the Saints. 3 is Jair Alexander from the Packers. Xavier Howard. 4, J.C. Jackson. 5, Denzel Ward from the Browns. 6th, NFL executive. If the dude is healthy and on the field, he's one of the best man coverage players out there. Footwork is elite. Movement is fluid. Would knock him on instincts. He probably will never be a Deion Sanders top-level anticipator, but he's got all the tools. He's actually darn tough. Tougher than given credit for. He's just small, so it's more of durability than toughness. So, G. Bush, 2 of the top 6 ranked cornerbacks in the NFL are Cleveland natives. Marshawn Lattimore for Glenville, Denzel Ward from Nordonia. And I think Denzel Ward's ranked a little bit lower. I'd take him ahead of Jackson. I'd take him ahead of Howard. I'd probably take him ahead of Lattimore at this point in his career as well.
Yeah, Lattimore kind of ranked kind of high. I was like, I'd have him somewhere from the 8 to 10 range. But I mean, I guess we're splitting hairs a little bit. One of the things that I do agree with in that assessment is I think when it comes to being in phase with your guy, you very rarely see Denzel Ward 2, 3, 4, 5 steps away from somebody. He's usually in coverage, right? He's always usually there. He's always contesting. And he's always a guy that's never really faked out on double moves or any of that stuff. Great recovery speed, you know what I'm saying, fluent, like he can run with the best of them. And he's not a guy that is a smaller corner who you would think would get jump ball a lot more, maybe on fade routes and things like that. That doesn't happen too much either. I think one of the things that they are correct in their assessment is when you look at his production as far as interceptions and playing the football in the air, I think he doesn't have the elite instincts as far as jumping routes and different things like that. But I also think he's not a player that's going to take excessive chances. He's not going to be a guy, and you got to think about it. In man-to-man coverage, if you take a chance, that's what, either a touchdown or a spot foul on a pass interference, right? So you don't, some people are a little more risk averse, right? Before we had guys and coaches that played their secondary or their safeties very deep. So, when you got guys that help over the top, you can take a few more chances. But I think when you play in cover zero, I don't mind my corners not taking chances. All I want you to do is knock the ball down and get them to get fourth down and punt the ball. But in terms of what Denzel Ward is, I think the Browns have a really good secondary. I think he's a top 5 guy. I think Newsome I'm really high on. I think he's going to take another step today or this year. And I think the safety is going to take a step too. So I like what they got back there. And as I said before, I continue to say it. Every single person is back on this Browns defense. Everybody should know the system. Joe Woods should be comfortable, and they should be able to run some of the more exotic things early in the season when offense is still trying to catch up due to training camp, because defense is always going to be ahead of offense.
Yeah, and that secondary is going to be critical because it is a passing league, and they're going to need every bit of depth that they have if they're going to overcome how many ever games Watson is out. This is from Dog Pound Daily, and it is the weakest link, the major issue with each team. And for the Browns, they say the Browns' interior defensive line. And when you look at the grading scale, they have they've given Sheldon Day a 64-7. Didn't have enough steps. Is the only guy that they have at an acceptable level as a backup at that point. When I look at that, I think the interior defensive line has guys that are unproven. Doesn't mean they don't have talent. Means you're going to get a chance, and you better do it.
Yeah. So for defensive tackles, it's so difficult to project defensive tackles, right? And defensive tackle is a position in the league that has been devalued a little bit, just for the simple fact that you use a lot of your pressure schemes you want to get from your ends. You want to bring some pressure you could bring from linebackers that are blitzing a little bit. Your defensive tackles it's hard to find 3-down defensive tackles. And what I mean by that, the guys like Warren Sapp, the guys that play your 3 technique, that can stop the run, strong enough that they want to double team you to the outside linebacker or double team you to the second level. He can be stout in there. He can drop his hips. He can punch, and you can't move him. He can make plays that way. Or the premium guys, or the Aaron Donalds, the guys that can actually still rush and be a threat to rush and get sacks and pressure from the 3 technique. It's so difficult to do it. It's so difficult to project those guys to the next level. So now, teams, you very rarely find guys, your Richard Seymours, your Cam Haywards, your John Randalls, Cam Jordan. Those are guys that are, those guys have elite production from the standpoint of rushing the passer. So what you got to realize is you need DeForest Buckner is another one that's really good at that. You got to realize that sometimes you got to go by committee. I think they got a young guy, Perrion Winfrey, that we're all excited to see. If you ask me, who do you want to see the most? I want to see him, David Bell. I want to see some of these young guys, Anthony Schwartz. I want to see them get a chance to get into these games and be physical and keep it moving. And they got a lot of guys like Jordan Elliott. Talked to Mary Kay Cabot. She's on here all the time. She was on my show last weekend, and she said, look, right now they're very high on Jordan Elliott. They think if the season started right now, he'd be one of the starters. They got a 3rd-round pick on him. So we'll figure out what we can do by committee. One of the things we got to understand is you're not going to have a superstar at every position. When you got 2 of the better defensive ends in the game, and you got fast outside linebackers, and we just talked about, for 5 minutes how good the corners were. It's hard to have an all-star, all-pro guy at every position, especially at a defensive tackle position. So we'll figure out. I think somebody will step up, and they'll do it by committee.
G. Bush, as always, thanks so much for the time and the insight. I always enjoy talking with you. Thanks very much.
Always, man. Anytime, man.
All right, G. Bush, make sure you catch him. Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, 11 to 1, Monday through Friday on YouTube. The Barbershop, 92.3 The Fan, 8 till noon, Saturday mornings. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, Brad Ward from BrownsWire.com, All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. We continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery, partners in education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns in a little bit earlier today. Aditi Kikabala, who is going to be part of the Browns preseason television network, tweets this as she was talking on radio in Pittsburgh. 93.7 The Fan is in Pittsburgh. She reveals the sense she gets from the Browns is that the Deshaun Watson suspension will be fewer than 10 games. Let's welcome in Brad Ward from the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast, as well as BrownsWire.com. And Brad, there seems to be a number of national people that we're hearing that are all saying basically the same thing. The sense is that they're going to the suspension is going to be fewer than 10 games.
Yeah, man, it's certainly trending. Yeah, it's certainly trending that way. It's been crazy, right? You could really find anybody you wanted to say what you wanted for a while, right? You can find people that were saying a year and some people that were saying less, but we're at a point now where it certainly feels like there's a lot of momentum going in Watson's direction. And I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, at this point where both sides really don't know what Sue Robinson's going to do, it really feels like they could maybe come together and find a settlement in less than 10 games, maybe like 8 games, because I'm sure the NFL would want to save face if they feel like they're on like losing momentum. And, you know, and all the stories right now, at least in the court of public opinion, is finally starting to sway towards Watson a little bit.
Yeah, and that is given the fact that Tony Busby played the early part of that so well, being the lawyer for all of the claimants. This is also kind of interesting. So what's Deshaun Watson doing? We have the answer to that question. Deshaun Watson is in Austin, Texas, and he is training with some young fellas at quarterback. C.J. Stroud, the Buckeyes quarterback, Justin Fields from the Bears, Malik Wills from the Titans, all working out and training together out in Austin, Texas. So it's kind of interesting, trying to knock the rust off, get as sharp as he can without game action before training camp.
Yeah, as many reps as he can get at this point, right, Dave? I mean, who knows when they get back to camp if it's it might not be, you know, hopefully we get a decision by then, but it might not be him taking all the snaps with the ones, you know, and they may be forced to give Brissett all those snaps. As a matter of fact, I would probably think they would if it's going to be Brissett week 1. So as much, you know, throwing and reps that he can get, the better at this point, right? He's got to be ready. And if he's going to play 8 games this year, you'd expect him to stay ready the whole time that he's suspended too.
Yeah, and, you know, again, he can go throughout training camp, assuming there is a suspension. He can be with the team throughout training camp once the regular season starts. He's not allowed back in the building until that suspension is complete, if you will. This is also kind of interesting, Brad. So the strengths and weaknesses for every AFC team, this is heading into the 2022 training camp according to Pro Football Focus. So for the Browns, biggest strengths, the running back. You know, they delineate Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, Dearness Johnson. You also can add Ford into that mix. They're deep. Do you think they end up with all of those running backs on the roster week 1?
I think they do, actually. I think they kind of have to, right? Yeah, I mean, you want to keep Kareem Hunt, and Chubb is going to be your tandem this year, but, you know, I would love to keep Kareem Hunt around. Like, you know, you never want to send a guy away that likes being in Cleveland, right? It's just kind of a bad culture move, but it depends on what he's going to want money-wise, ultimately. And you have your succession plan on the roster, right? So you kind of have to keep those guys, and you're going to have to make room. That may be one less player, extra offensive lineman, or one less tight end this year, maybe, because they're not going to run as much of that. Now, if it's Brissett, maybe we might see a little bit more reverting back to some of those heavier packages than it would be with Watson. But still, you got to make room for those guys on this roster. Your succession plan is literally right there after Hunt's gone, and, you know, depending on Chubb's length of his career, you know. These guys wear down. When a running back wears down, Dave, they wear down and they wear down fast. So you got to be ready for that.
Well, the way you extend that, in theory, is you split the carries like the Browns have done with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. So there's a dual purpose to that. They both spell each other well. They both have, different skill sets. And they, in theory, extend each other's career a little bit by sharing the duties.
Absolutely, yeah. And then, if Hunt, for some reason, isn't here next year, you have the guys that can still complement Chubb with change of pace and spell him, like you're talking about. Extend that career as long as you can because he's such a special player.
So the biggest weakness from that same group, Pro Football Focus, for the Browns, they say the interior defensive line. Jordan Elliott yet to show the kind of play they saw from him in college. Taven Bryant, former first-rounder, just 60 pressures in 4 seasons. Perrion Winfrey will have the opportunity. And I get it. There are not a lot of veterans who have done it at the NFL level. So I get why they say it's weak. They're going to throw numbers and young guys at them and give them the opportunity to go make their way, if you will, in the NFL.
Yeah, you hope these guys can all find a role, right? You want, collectively to attack the interior to this defensive line. You want to use a lot of bodies, keep guys rested. And, one game it may be one guy, and one next game it may be somebody else. There's no stars in that room. You would like to see Elliott step into that role because he was a higher draft pick. And I think he certainly can. I'm hoping for that. You hope Togi finds a role. Sheldon Day sliding in there, probably going to have to take on some big snap counts. But I don't know how Taven Bryan will do. I still have some questions around that. But he certainly is athletic. But you like to find them all, find a little role, find a little niche, and maybe collectively they can be better than they are on paper, at least the way that it seems. And they have such help on the edges, right? You have such good guys on the edges, and you're going to be kicking in Clowney from time to time. So they may be all right. They may end up playing and producing better than they look on paper. Let's hope so.
All right, before we go to break, give me the name of a guy who might be flying under the radar that you think could have a big 2022, who could, contribute significantly for the Browns.
The guy that comes to mind right away when I saw this question was Harrison Bryant, right? So I like Harrison Bryant so much, and how Stefanski loves his tight ends. And Njoku's going to have, he's got the big, of course you have to use him with the way you're paying him, and you expect a big season from him. But there's nobody else after that, really. There, they have Miller Fornstall, but it's going to be Bryant who's going to be in there when they want to run 12 personnel, when they want to run a heavier set, if Brissett's in there. And you're going to need him to catch a lot of passes as well. The way they love to use tight ends. So I would love to see him step into a bigger role and probably catches a lot of balls, and especially if Njoku starts out hot, he's going to get a lot of attention. He's going to get, linebackers and safeties doubling him. If he's really the weapon that we think he can be, if utilized correctly, you got to go to Bryant at that point. So I expect him to step up, and I would like to see a huge season from him. I think he really could do it too.
Yeah, I agree. I think the skill set is there. Let's see if he does good things for the Browns offense. Brad Ward from BrownsWire.com, also the host of the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast, and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. We'll turn our attention even a little bit more towards the quarterback position. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line, a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with Brad Ward from BrownsWire.com, as well as the host of the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. We referenced this a little bit earlier in the show. Let's take a look at another quote from that article on The Athletic that kind of detailed where things went wrong with Baker Mayfield and Kevin Stefanski. And this quote kind of jumps out at you. Mayfield was widely viewed as childish and immature. His behavior annoyed teammates and divided the locker room, and he was often difficult to coach. Let's welcome back in Brad Ward. And Brad, when you look at that, those are three things you do not want to hear about your quote-unquote franchise quarterback ever, ever, ever.
No, you don't. And it should be interesting in Carolina, too. I mean, he goes in. It's so funny. I think, you'd like to have a fresh start, but you got a guy, Robbie Anderson, who was vocally speaking out against him. They have to have some kind of history. I know he said he never met him, but why would he be so down on Mayfield? McAdoo is his offensive coordinator who talked down on him when he was coming out in the draft. Mayfield is aware of these things. I mean, that's exactly what he is, right? He holds grudges, and I'm sure everything will be fine during training camp. But, Mayfield's kind of MO in those situations, Davis, when things get bad, those things are going to come to light, right? That's kind of like that maturity. Does he ever really get over those grudges and the chips on his shoulder that he holds on to for so long? And when it comes out, it doesn't come out very, very great. You're going to hear a lot of stuff coming out about Mayfield now that he's gone, especially. You're going to hear a lot of stories coming out of the Browns, leaks on him and things that make a lot of sense of why the Browns were so turned off. I think this last year was really trying for that locker room. And I think, from people I've talked to, I think you're going to hear a lot of stories about Mayfield that aren't so flattering about his behavior behind the scenes, Dave. I wouldn't be surprised at all if you see those coming out here in the coming weeks, especially now that he's traded.
Yeah, I have heard some of those same stories. We'll see. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Let me ask you this. At what point in terms of games, if Deshaun Watson is suspended X amount of games, do you look to somebody other than Jacoby Brissett to be your quarterback? This roster is built to win and win now. How many games can they withstand Jacoby Brissett as their starter?
I think 8 max is the way I feel. Like, I think that they kind of brought him in with that thought in mind. Back then, 8 was kind of reasonable, right? Maybe 8 or less was kind of the feeling. Now, I think if you're anything more than 8, maybe you could go for 10, right? With the game plan. That 10, maybe you could try to do. I don't think you would feel like you have to go make a move at 10. But I think if you're looking at 12 or more, Dave, I think I would like to see them go at least see how Garoppolo's arm is, right? And go after him. For me, it makes a lot of sense. He has no guarantee on his contract this year. You can kind of manipulate that number, especially if he gets released like he's rumored to maybe. It makes a lot of sense for the Browns to go get him, a guy that plays in the same system. And yeah, you're right. You don't want to waste all these guys' prime years. Nick Chubb, Denzel Ward, all these guys in their prime. That's I keep saying and trying to tell Browns fans, look at this long term. The only way is through. On the other side of this is lots of touchdown passes and wins from Watson. But at the same time, in the short term, these years are precious for guys in their prime, right? So you don't want to waste that. You don't want to waste a year with this roster. So I don't think you can afford to just say, we'll try to get it done with a Brissett, who is not a high-level quarterback, very respected, very professional, but not a guy that's going to take you to the promised land, right? And I think that Garoppolo makes a lot more sense in that circumstance. So I would say 12 or higher. I think they should make a move. Now, will they? That's a different story. At least so far, they've been very vocal about their belief in Brissett. Now, that may just be the case until the time comes, which is usually the way front offices operate. So
it's kind of interesting that you mentioned Garoppolo. That kind of goes into what we're looking at next. This is from CBSSports.com, and they are 5 logical landing spots for Jimmy Garoppolo. Number 1 is the Browns, and it delineates Browns are built to win now, offense centered around the run, much like it was for Garoppolo with the 49ers. Cleveland would get much more of a proven emergency starter under center. Jimmy G a chance to guide a playoff run while kind of resetting his own market for 2023. They also list the Bears, Texans, Seahawks, Patriots. But it makes sense if the Browns, if it is a 12-game suspension or a 10-game suspension. You mentioned there's plenty of cap space. You can manipulate it because none of that is guaranteed, unlike Baker's contract. None of Garoppolo's money is guaranteed.
Yeah, absolutely. You find it, he was kind of a hired gun last year, right? Like he knew he was on his way out with their succession plan in place at quarterback. To be a hired gun again this year makes sense. There's no other place he can go and start right now, right? Like, so if this comes down, this may be his only opportunity to play. So it would make sense for him to take a pay cut and come start for 12 games or 17 games if need be, right? Let's hope not. But it would make sense for him to want to do that, to keep his value up, to reset his market for next year, right? And for the Browns, it makes a lot of sense because you got to win now. The system is very familiar. They're basically the Niners are, NFC version of the Browns in the AFC, right? Like they virtually very much game plan the same way and lean on the run heavy. So, and he's taken them to the Super Bowl, right? So with a tremendous run game. So it's a guy that can do it with the talent all around him. I think that it would make a lot of sense. I mean, it makes so much sense. So I just hope the Browns were willing to do that and they don't have too much belief in Brissett, which I gotta feel that when they honestly take a look at the situation and the suspension comes down, Dave, I think that it'll make a lot of sense if it's 12 or more to go make a move like that.
Brad Ward, appreciate the time and the insight as always. Appreciate you kind of without power in your house, so you came and did it via the car. So thanks very much. Appreciate it, man.
Of course. Anytime, Dave. Anytime. Got to be here for you, brother.
All right, Brad Ward. Make sure you catch him, the host of the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast, also writes for BrownsWire.com. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you back here Monday at 4 o'clock. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you Monday at 4 on Sports for CLE.